Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody who is listening to us or watching us wherever you are at. We do sincerely apologize for the delay. I do want to say South Africa, maybe we're having our own issues. Needless to say, we just had a bit of a difficulty, technicality, but we are here now. And welcome to the first series, or rather the first episode of a six-part series that is put together by the Yogas. So to give you a bit more about what this webinar series is about is that it covers, it's a six-part series that episode 1 to 6 covers and talks to that person who has an idea but doesn't know where to start. So it starts inspiring to look into building your brand. And for those who actually have started, they start refining that brand. And then there's others who probably now want to expand, whether they're looking for financing, whether it is about how do I take my brand to the next level because it's either plateaued, or am I finding is there a new market that I need to find, or is it the fact that I need to go, global? So that's what we're going to be discussing over the 6 weeks. But today we have amazing guests to take us through the start or this roadmap of when I start, what do I do? And we have an amazing guest by the name of Boitumelo Muhube, who is a marketing executive and a communication specialist and runs her own agency. Hi, Tunes. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I've just unmuted. Good evening.
Okay, that's right. Welcome to our first episode of the webinar series, the Grow Your Brand series, where we're talking to, like I say, anyone who wants to be inspired, anybody who wants to refine their brand, and anybody who's looking to expand their brand. But I think more so here, and even I think whether you are, on your journey, right in the middle or towards the end, and like I say, from expansion, it is about what is a brand, because it's this almost phantom thing. We talk about marketing, we talk about a brand, we talk about a product, we talk about a service. What are we talking about here?
So thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction, and good evening to everybody else. I really hoping that I would have given just a drop of some gems in terms of some advice in terms of how I started. But in answering your question, so a brand would be, the product that you created that you are then going out there to sell to your customers, to sell to your clients. It is that one thing that almost like identifies who you are, whether it be the institution. It is that thing that identifies you and differentiates you from all the other competitors out there. Whereas marketing is basically how you speak to your clients and your customers and so forth. So a brand in a nutshell is what you build. It is that identity. It is what people see you and say, I know Mpumi because she is like this, or she looks like this, or she speaks like this, or she behaves like this. So it's literally your identity.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken about identity. I think we become quite aware of our identity as individuals when we're a lot older. Would you say then, can you really find your identity as a startup or pre-startup? How do I start? What is my goal for branding when I start a business?
I would say, firstly, your purpose, right? So you're starting a business with an idea and a vision in terms of, your dreams. You are literally building this dream that you have in your head. And I'm assuming that, the ultimate goal is to grow and obviously become profitable and to go global and all these things. But in terms of building that brand, it is a couple of steps in terms of understanding what is it that I want to do? What is my purpose in life? What is the purpose of the brand? Why am I building this business? What purpose does it serve? Who is it going to be sold to? And I think the most important question is, do they need it? I think in brand building and when you're starting a business and how you are going to, I suppose, stay within and within tune and successful is how do I make sure that if there are, especially if the product is not as different as what everybody else is offering, but you feel that you can offer something slightly uniquely different from what everybody else is doing, that then becomes what you then brand yourself as, or how you then position yourself differently from everybody else. It is that, how do I position and how do I say to everybody else, I'm here, but I'm here in a way that answers your needs. And what are those needs that this brand and this business or this product or the service is answering to? And that for me is, if you can define the why am I doing this? You would have at least solved 30% of your problems.
And I love how you've spoken about, I think there's quite a lot of intrinsic honing where it's about an individual, it's about the why, and then it becomes culture, it becomes the brand, so it kind of trickles and becomes the extrinsic stuff that we see. But now you've also spoken about how do you differentiate, how are you different? How do you become, with such a saturated market, here I am, how do I actually package amagwinya to be something that is either, I wouldn't say, because it's not cool, it's a need, this thing, you know in the morning when you get off, you get it, well, I don't know, now they're a bit expensive, I'm not sure, the last time I was like $5 though. But how do I now become that between two containers, I'm that usis made that people are standing, a long line, and next door, it's just, at least get those that feel bad will be like, okay, I was telling Lana usis, somebody.
Yes. Very interesting question. I'm still going to go back again to the why. There's 6 people who have hair salons. And I'm going to I'm going to advise that when you are in between your planning, you have to have some sort of like a strategy of, how I am going to then be different to the salon next door or to the other people who are doing different things and so forth. So one, you've identified what this need is. Once you've identified the need, then you go and identify your customers and understand them. So Mpumi likes doing her hair, but she likes doing her hair in 5 minutes and everything else and so forth. So then I understand that I'm going to a hair salon that then services people, based on convenience, because there's a gap for that. And I'm saying that because in identifying and putting together your strategy of what is the brand, what is the purpose of the brand, who are my customers, what do they need, and how am I then going to use this product to make sure that I'm servicing their needs and so forth. So in between the saturation, it then becomes my job to go find, the thing that makes you different. You need to find how you're going to create magic. Even if the magic then becomes, you are then going to create a new innovative digital communication platform that nobody else has got and so forth. I'm a strong believer that, you can have a million jobs and a lot of products out there. But once you have done your homework and truly, truly understand who you are speaking to, even if you're speaking to 10 people, by the way, because you don't have to speak to the mass market. If your product is aimed at actually servicing that one thing that you've identified that nobody else does, that is going to be, you're going to be the hair salon with that thing. So it's quite important just not to go out there, but homework is crucial. And I'm calling it homework just to simplify. In marketing terms, we call it a strategy. It is a plan. It is the who, the what, the where, and how long am I going to be needing certain things. Without that plan, you are just as good as somebody who's just gonna, throw it in and hope for the best. And that's actually a bad plan, because then you get swept wherever the wind goes and so forth. So even when you don't know or understand fully the intrinsics of your brands and other things and so forth, but just have a plan.
Now, on average, I know we throw around words in marketing, marketing plan, execution plan, but I'm a layman who is saying, listen, I have a concept and, I've researched, but I think there's just everything everywhere. And maybe it's also from a fund perspective. I think sometimes the preconceived idea that I don't have X number, I can't start. And I think I've seen quite a lot of people changing that perception to say, okay, cool, with what I have, what can I do to start? But also there's you're building a credible brand. How do you then really, what would you say are the 3 pillars or 4, however many you would say, even if it's 1, to say this is what really then cements your brand, and then you work around it? Because I think whether it's Nike, whether it's any big brand that we know, when they went into the market, it wasn't necessarily a product that is, proof of no damage in terms of the shoe, with a brand and how people identify with the brand, and they refine it over time up until we see what it is now, which is the do it, the tick. But how do I get to that point, or just even the kick to say, okay, cool, I have the building blocks, let me get going?
So you're asking, how do you cement a brand to make sure?
So my question is, as a business, when do I know that, okay, now I can go to market? What is that thing that says, okay, cool, I'm ready to go to market now? Whether it's a service, I'm ready to sell the story, or whatever service I'm there to give, and I'm also ready to actually share this product.
I think, honestly, when you think you have enough customers who will buy into your story, when you believe that the story of the brand that you are about to, take into market is, strong enough for people to want to buy into that product or that service or the business. I don't think there is a when it's correct. And I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we overthink when I should start, because we are, overthinkers of, is this perfect? Do I have, and should I have, do I have enough money for marketing and enough money for all these things and so forth? For me, it's all about keeping it simple. You have this great idea. You've identified that this great idea or this product is something that's required. You believe that it's something that could be of a game changer within the market. You then start. I think it's just about making sure that when you then go to market, you are able then to provide the product or the service. The last thing you want to do in amongst everything else is that you start communicating that here's Nike, here's my new shoe, buy online, and I have got no stock. And I'm going back to the plan. I'm going back to strategy, and I haven't done my homework to say, if I'm going to start in the next 3 months and so forth, what are the basic fundamentals that I need for those 5 customers that I've identified? So am I good with my supply chain? If Tumi calls right now, can I deliver, and how can I deliver, and so forth? Because it's easy enough to start, I personally think, to start a brand. Maintaining, the credibility, like you said, of the brand then becomes the most challenging part, because that credibility is built over time, and it's built over time because now you need to learn how to be consistent. Consistency is then what starts building trust, that customers will say, I've seen it, I can trust it, it's reliable, and therefore every time I need it, it will be there for me, whatever that is. So when you are ready and you have gotten your ducks in a row from a back-end system, and you can provide the service, and you can do whatever it is that you need to do, start. The rest you will build as you go.
As you go. I think you almost said you're Bob the Builder, and I like it because you're talking about building. So, as you're Bob the Builder, we can't also shy away from the obstacles that you really go through, because that's the reality. You're building a plan, you go through your competitors. I mean, when you're doing an analysis of opening up a restaurant, you can read so many articles, and maybe you can understand what they went through, but you can't really, there's a lot. We don't talk about, hey, we see 1 month speech, because we don't talk about it. And I think I've read one book about 10 African entrepreneurs, you know, top 10 African entrepreneurs. And even then, I mean, it was really about how they built these businesses. Your Dangotes, your in Ethiopia, in Egypt, and all these big names that we have. But as a small business, I mean, looking there is quite aspirational and very far. The reality of you reaching there now, you know, because also there is a misconception that sometimes it's I have money, I start, it becomes big. Or there's also the understanding that, sure, I don't know if I have the heart for this, but without even almost having a pessimistic view. But what are the challenges that you've gone through and really have you looking back, even if it's just 2 or 3, that you look back and you're like, sure, those were hectic challenges. But I mean, we've talked about, for example, that, you know, something that you kind of overlook, and especially at the beginning, oh, you're just seeing we'll find a way. But what are your top 2 to 3 challenges which you've overcome because you're still here and you've got an amazing brand? That you're saying, you know what, I think it's something that a small business, they don't have to go through it. They can learn, for example, for SARS, just make sure you're understanding the tax man and what you need to give to the tax man. Pay to Caesar what is owed to Caesar.
Shoo, that is a loaded question, by the way, because I think with every year of your business, there are new challenges, right? So almost like this question is phased, you know. So the first 12 months, what are the challenges? The first 3 years, what are the challenges? Because I mean, I suppose, you know, every business supposedly is supposed to go, you know, if you make it the first 3 years, you've done amazing. You're still alive. There's something right that you're doing and so forth. And those who have on this call and so forth, if you have, well done to you, because I know for a fact it is not that easy. But for me, I think I've had to, I wouldn't necessarily say it was a challenge. I think it was more of a learning, but became a challenge for me as a person, or as a business owner or an entrepreneur, was understanding that when I'm building a brand, at some point, you almost like need to separate yourself from the brand, even though you are
that
your,
is yeah.
And I think that also happens much later, when the brand goes through what we call like a growth phase, right? So you start, and the simple, almost like challenges that everybody will have is raising funds and how do I market, and I don't have this and I don't have that, and you know, I don't understand the back end office, and who is SARS and all these things. I think in your first 2 years, that is what you are going to go through, whether you like it or not, and so forth. And you must embrace all of that. And you must ask a lot of questions and not be afraid to fail and not understand, because we build businesses because we have a dream and a vision. But at some point, then that dream and vision, you must actually build it so that you let other people help you build it. That's been my biggest challenge. Because in as much as you can build a brand, it takes 2 seconds to destroy the 5-year, 6-year work that you've done, because you have not either resourced well, you have not either, you know, done things that could compromise the reputation of the business. And how do I make sure that, again, it's always consistent and all these things and so forth. So for me, at this current moment, it's been challenging to trust, of letting go of the baby that I've built, and trust in the process, that part of growth actually means that for me to go global, I need to find partners, I need to find suppliers, I need to find a team that will believe in the brand in as much as I do. I think that's been the biggest challenge. The rest, honestly speaking, it's mundane stuff that everybody else will go through, but they have to go through it because it is, and it's a beautiful journey. It's a stressful journey, but it's a journey that if you are really, really, really persistent and determined in terms of what you want to build, trust me, you'll find the answers.
I love that, and just almost at the nick of time, you wrapped it up quite well, and I think people, and I'd like to believe I can take a lot from that. you sometimes find that you almost want to microwave your success, whereas you're seeing another business 10 years down the line and you're assuming the same success, or you're wanting it now, you know. The foundation, there is the building phases rather, there's the falling off, you know, climbing back on. But I think at the end of the day, you've summarized it well, and you've said quite a few important points. And of that is, what is your why? Once you found your why, do enough and good enough research to get going. And I don't know, the newer words is called imposter syndrome. So you almost want to wait up until perfection for it to go out. And I think also because it is, once it's out there, and you know, people are going to take a stab at it. You know, people are going to discredit it. People are going to, and then others who embrace, you know, but it is a journey. I think when somebody comes back and says, then Zippo came out, I'm like, why did it come out? Mine are here. Why are yours coming out? You know, and almost it really is. I mean, a brand is you, so I can understand how it becomes very much personal when you're saying, credit me. You're talking to me, so you're saying, I'm not. You know, so thank you for the gems that you've dropped, and thank you for joining us tonight. And of course, we have our second guest. But before we add our second guest, we just want to say thank you, Dooms, and we will. I mean, people are going to see you, so we can't wait. And if people really want to talk to you, where do they find you first before we even get you off the webinar?
I am on. You can find me on my website. I'm actually. I believe in being accessible. You know. All the social media platforms, drop me a DM, pop me an email. And there's a reason why I feel so strongly about, you know, the Yoba Awards as well and so forth, because I understand what it's like to build a business and build a brand and all these things, and being young and not knowing if you can, you know, reach out to do me. Sometimes it might take me a week to respond, but trust me, I will respond, because I know how important it is to respond.
I won't tell them the truth.
Pardon?
I won't tell them the truth that it's not really.
No, literally. Do me at nubamedia.com. I will respond, or just on my website and I will respond. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Dumi, for availing yourself, and especially to, like you say, youth-owned brands. I think sometimes it is, where do I find help? Where do I, you know, just say, listen, it might be a stupid question, but I don't know, you know. And I think what we didn't also mention is that you're the CEO of Bana, which what you stand for there is also, it's almost for, you know, for Black agencies to also say, hey, now, you know, I'm really trying to penetrate the market. How or where do I go? How do I even put fees together to say this is my cost, you know, to clients? You know, how does the pitching go? All of those things, and you're doing absolutely amazing work. I don't say often enough, but I do look up to you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So we've had our first guest, which was Boitumelo Mohube, who is a marketing executive and a communication specialist. She is the founder of Mohube Media. We have a second guest, and our second guest is a lovely gentleman, and I'm going to add him to our stream, and I'm sure you see him now, and it's Mr. Thabani Khumalo. So we have our second guest for the evening. Welcome, Mr. Thabani.
What's happening, Bumi?
What's happening? Guys, I don't think I get Thabani's energy. No, but like up there.
It's always up there. I can never dumb it down.
But it's like chilled, but it's there, you know. It's quite lovely. But welcome to our first episode of the 6-part series, which is the Grow Your Brand series, brought to you by the Yobas. And of course, I did not, and I should not forget, we have amazing headline sponsors like the Standard Bank, or like Standard Bank rather, and our partners being Patron Brands, Lavato, Reveal, Nalisa, and the Wits Business School. These are the headline and also partners and sponsors to the top 16 Youth-Owned Brands Awards happening on the 15th and 16th. So 15th is the exhibition, so it's called a festival. It's going to be, there's entertainment, there's masterclasses, there are the youth-owned brands. You're literally walking into a mall where there's just youth brands from 16 categories, from food, beverage, apparel, footwear, you name it. You know, if you didn't know, now you know. But we'll talk about that after. But let's go now to our second guest, who is Thabani. And Thabani, I mean, we've spoken about, with Dumi, we've really chatted about as a startup. What do I need to understand about a brand? What do I need to understand the difference between a brand and marketing, product, service? Because it can get quite overwhelming. I could be, you know, an accountant, I could be in engineering, but I have a concept and idea, and I just don't know where to start. You know, I know when I started the business, you know, a few acquaintances, friends would be like, "Sure, that's quite brave," you know. You know, we spoke about with her where do I fit in this whole ecosystem? And you come in. I aspire to also, so why I aspire the CMSA is because I started studying chartered accountancy. So I was supposed to have CMSA. So you know, CMSA. So why is that? You know, I'm excited to chat with you and really talk about brands from FMCG. I mean, that's where your background comes from. You have CMO Corner also, where you're discussing or you're talking to CMOs around brands, and how do you position yourself? But to you, where and how would you say, what is a brand, you know? And how do you, when you start saying, listen, I've come to a point where I can collaborate, you know? Because sometimes we wake up and then we're like, do you collaborate from the start? Do you collaborate in between? Because now we've spoken about what is a brand, and people get that. But now you are now saying, how do I get myself out there? You know, with influencer marketing coming, do we say, Michelle, please, you know, wait, what do we do? What do we do? You know, as a small business, as a startup, emerging business, what do I do? Where do I start?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question, and I always say maybe the first thing is just start. Like I always love people that just start. Yeah, the first thing is just start. Just take the leap of faith and just start. Yeah. That's the first thing. Because if you're not starting, you've got
our doctrines are different. Are you saying start, but you've done research, or are you saying we have no,
100% do your research, but I'm saying I think you guys also spoke about imposter syndrome. I think it gets us all, right? So don't get stuck too much on imposter and believe that you're not actually worthy to start, or you wanna analyze too much. I think there's a level of analysis that you need to do, but don't overdo it, because you just need to start. And then after that, you start learning as you go. And I think for me, the first part around branding, which is what you mentioned, I think you've got a brand when people can easily recognize your brand. So how you generally build brands is making sure that you are distinctive in your assets. So what do you have that is actually distinctive? Is it the color? Is it the logo? Is it the tone of voice of the brand? Is it the activities that the brand actually has? Is it how you treat your social media presence if you are on social media? So there's a couple of elements that can drive the cues of what actually develops a brand, which are your brand or your distinctive brand assets. And those have to be very clear for you, and they should obviously not be the same as the next person. And if you think about big brands, we'll make one example. McDonald's is actually a big brand. But if you're driving past a billboard and you see no McDonald's logo, but you see a red and a yellow and squares or rectangulars, you assume definitely it's McDonald's. And that's what you need to start developing, those distinctive brand assets. And from there on, you start knowing that people actually start knowing that you've got a brand. Brands that do it very well locally are the brands of like Tepo. Tepo does it very well with his crown. It's a logo, but in essence, it's something that starts cueing what brands are actually doing, or what your brand is and what it represents.
Yeah, so he has an iconography that you know when it's there, it's him. I think recently, and by recently I mean, you know, in the past 4 or 5 years, I know, or maybe I became acquainted with design, really saying, listen, we're looking at these iconographies, and also because on Google, it's icons that appear more than names now. So people are saying, okay, let's take this part seriously. It's not just a logo with a kuning pen, but really taking the time to say something easily identified. This is who I am. I've arrived.
Definitely. So and once you land that, I think it then becomes easier to move on to the other steps of marketing. Now, if you're going into marketing, moving away from branding, which I think branding is around the assets that we've spoken about. But when we go to marketing, it's now how do we grow this brand that we've developed? We've taken it from a product, now it's a brand. Now, how do I actually grow it? And in marketing, like I always say, people get caught up in all the creative stuff. So we all get caught up in the social media, and I must be on social media, I must be on Instagram, I must be posting. But there are other pillars of your business in marketing, which I don't think we speak a lot about as marketers. So how is your pricing in retrospect when you look at your competition? Is the product actually good if you're actually selling a product, like a consumable product? Is it good, Chief? Because if it's not good, it's not going to sell, this thing.
Absolutely.
You can have the most beautiful logo, the beautiful title. You can have Mihlali, but if your product is better, it's not gonna sell that thing.
Yeah.
So pricing is one. Is the product good enough? Is it available? Can I access? Can I find it? If I look for it, can I find it? And what we speak about in terms of finding products is both online and offline. So when I search for it, do I find it, or is it on page 500 on Google search? And maybe we're going to talk about platforms that are actually free that startup businesses can actually use, because I've got a couple that I've thought of that they can actually use in order to grow their businesses. Can I find it online? But if it's offline, can I also find it if it's something that has to be distributed at Clicks? I know Portia M has a product at Clicks. Can I find it when I walk into Clicks and I'm buying my toiletries and I want to do things? So is it accessible and is it readily available for people? They don't have to look far and all these places in order to find it. So that's for me is like the pillars of marketing. So pricing is important. Your product, is it good? Is it available? And then lastly, you need to know your numbers of your business or your brand. Like you can't be selling something and you're not making profit. It's not an NGO, this thing. It's a business. It's a brand. Yeah. So like, what are your margins like? You need to talk the language of finance people because you are growing a business. So if I'm buying and it's costing me $20 to make it and I'm selling it $100, I know I'm making good margin. But if you're making it at $20 and then now when are you selling it at 21 Rand, then you're not making money. So how do you then place yourself in that perspective and understand your profit and loss statements as well to make money?
Sure. Now, I mean, we have the Passion Brands podcast, and Passion Brands is one of the partners here. And what I've loved, or an observation that people have had is that I don't know, all these marketers are not marketers. They're either engineering, they're either finance. I always talk about how I got. I mean, I've been in marketing for the past 7 to 9 years, if you include retail previously. But I did accounting, and it was because of the numbers. I was not even done with my degree. They were just like, come through, and it's very important. You're quite right to understand the numbers of your business. You need to be very obsessed with the numbers of your business. As much as there's the marketing side, which, I mean, you've really broken it down quite amazingly. And for those that are marketers out there, four P's. Those are 4 P's. Which are now apparently 7 P's now given digital and so forth. But that is the crux, I think. You really, that's the building blocks of saying, I've got a good product. Does pricing make sense? And also the fact that, am I accessible? Because no point if it's in my honji, but nobody knows about it. And then lastly, and knowing about it is then the promotion part, is that place, price, product, and promotion. Now, I mean, I hear all of that. Okay, now I've done my plan. Now, where do I mean, I think many of times people are like, marketing is very expensive. Where do I even go? And I've seen it also having worked in tech spaces where you find that people, raise funds, but then how they are launching it going forth, it's either they need to, get an agency on board, but there's limitations. But where do I go? I have limited funds, but where do I go? Where do I start? How do I go ahead?
So the first recommendation I would have is, well, the first part is marketing is not expensive. You just have to find the right places and know where to spend your money and how to spend your money.
So the
Not everyone.
misconception.
Yeah, it's a misconception. And I
Okay.
mean, right now we're talking about startups, right? So let's make this conversation fitting for them.
Yeah.
In that, how the first place to start, at least my recommendation would be, there's a free platform on Google My Business or Google Digital Skills. Literally, they take you step by step, and this is all free.
Yeah.
Step by step about how to actually grow your business online. And you could argue now, because we live in the digital age, I was reading an interesting stat the other day. So apparently, and actually it's a stat that comes from Google, apparently an individual looks at their phone at least 150 times in a day, whether it's checking emails, responding, going on social media, WhatsApp, searching for directions, Google Maps. You're on your phone 150 times in a day. So you'd almost argue that if you're a startup, use that to your advantage. Don't now think about billboards and TV ads and paying me. You can't afford me. Relax.
I get.
No, I'm helping them. I'm the brother that's gonna tell them the truth and not lie to them. So forget about Mihlali. You can't afford Mihlali. Just forget about calling Pumi. You can't afford Pumi. Just use free platforms that can help you and spend your money wisely. So the first thing is just equipping yourself with the platforms that you can actually use, like Google Digital Skills, to actually train yourself to know how the landscape of digital actually works, and then you empower yourself from there, right? That's the first thing. Second thing for me is, if you look at just the digital landscape, when I search, and again, people search a lot. I think 80% of anything that actually people find, they go and search first. So when you're on search, can I find your business? That's the first thing. Again, we go back to the same point. Can I find your business? And how you can actually help yourself is go to google.com/business. That platform, again, free. But that helps you list your business on Google. You know how you normally have your Google address, the image on the right-hand side when you search it. There's everything that you search, and then you've got the images. Maybe you would know, but let's just assume some people don't know. That is all free. That is free from Google. Literally, you go to google.com/business, and you can actually list your business there. Put some images there. It helps with your SEO. Put some images, put the trading hours, put links, respond to people if they visit your place. You've got a studio, you've got a nail studio, I saw. So if you do all of those things.
Yeah, they review also. Those help.
Yeah, people review, engage with them. That helps you a lot with your SEO. That's the first thing, right? Yeah. And marketers tend to talk about SEO and SEA and all these fancy terms. They're not that deep. They're really not. You brought me here for a reason, friend. You brought me here for a reason.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even SEO. So SEO is about search engine optimization. Can I find you when I search for you? Again, that you don't have to pay for. That's how just Google picks up from keywords around what people are searching. Is it listed properly? Is the content right? Is the image that you've loaded on your website a high-res image? Don't load blurry pictures, non-pixelated pictures. There's no need. You're not going to be found on Google. So basic things like that, I think, are quite important and critical. And even that, Google has a free platform called Search Console or Search Central. Even then, it's google.com/webmaster. When you go there, they will educate you around how to work your SEO, basically, for free. You don't have to pay money for it.
I'm taking notes for myself here. I don't know. For everybody out there, I don't know why you are not now on the comments saying, and then what else?
And maybe let me touch on the last one. Let me just touch on the last one, because I can go on and on about these free platforms. I think another thing is, once you have a listing on a website or whatever, it's also important.
I think we lost Thabani there for 2 seconds. We're just going to give him a bit of time to come back. But do engage with us, please. Make sure you are chatting up a storm with us. We are still live. We are just waiting for Thabani to come back.
Am I back, boss?
There we go.
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure what's happening in Sauta right now.
No,
Um,
no.
Apologies about that. But I was talking about making sure that your website, so when you have a website, make sure that your website is quick. The speed of your website is very important. So 53% of people actually abandon websites that take longer than 3 seconds to load. So you've got a window of 3 seconds to make sure that your website is actually loading and it works properly. If it takes longer than that, people will leave. They won't even go through your website because it's loading, and they won't necessarily enter. And even Google.
Yeah.
Google has a free platform. It's called testmysites.thinkwithgoogle.com. That helps you put your URL. You literally put your URL, and Google will tell you if your website loads quick enough or not. And it will tell you how to optimize your website in order for that to load quicker under the 3 seconds. So these are all practical things people can use.
Yeah. I don't know why you're on this session, because now I wanted to move you to the digital marketing session, because you have been an ambassador of Google, but you are so right. For those out there, it's called the Digital Garage. I think it's the Google Digital Garage. You have a host of so many things. I sometimes hear people say, time, or maybe I'm unemployed, especially also for people who are unemployed. If you have the opportunity, whether you're going to the library for internet access, please utilize this time to understand that, because in any case, whether you're going to then say, listen, I'm going to open up a business by virtue of survival, how do I then still drive it online? How do I then still am able to be seen? And all of these things, yes, I don't have money to call Tabane to Nompumelelo to say, please, can you assist with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? But there's things like Canva from a design perspective. Again, like I say, where they are, what are these things called? Where there's facilities created by government for you to access the internet. Don't work against yourself. There are these platforms that actually are helping you to say, listen, if I don't have anything, I just need to go there, find what I need to find, run with it. But you've spoken about, I think, very important things, that you've really showed the difference between brand and brand also. I do want to say it's over time. So whilst you have the beautiful icon for Tshepo, for us to know who Tshepo is, it has taken so many years to have that affiliation of the crown and his brand. And also that name being Tshepo. So there's almost, that is a continuous a relationship that you develop with your clients and your customer base. But now, how do I then? The strong brand part comes in. I've come there. I've been accessible now. Now I need to promote myself. How do I then say? How do I sustain the brand to be good? And whether it's using marketing elements, or whether it is there's brand and not to go too much into terminology, brand intrinsics, etc. But I'm just this brand. I've used Google, like you said. I'm accessible now in Google Business, but I need to now create this brand that is a strong brand.
So here's the thing. Strong brands, again, to your point, around creating brands, are done over time. You can never create a strong brand in a year. It's going to take you
that is microwaved. Because I think what I'm trying to get to is the misconceptions that sometimes, because we've seen local brands that have succeeded, right? And maybe because you don't know the root side, so you don't know how far the root has gone. You don't know if it was 7 years input to a brand, and now you're seeing it way now it's on with a billboard, with a TV, and you're like, no, but if this person can, it's impossible, But how? And that's what I was saying, is that it's an over years type of thing. It's a long-term thing. That
definitely
one needs to take. But now, how do we then, and I think what I love, maybe this part would be great brand satisfaction, and I think loyalty also. I think you find that we are sitting in a time where there are, and I still promise to create an article where we have so many cards in our purses, in our bags, and if you're a student and a young professional, most of the time, and I suppose as you go older, you've got all the cards, black card, Woolworths, clicks, blue. You have, but is loyalty programs limited to the established brands?
So here's the thing. So what people need to understand, whether you're starting a business or your business is running, or its brand, whatever is running, is generally normal people are really loyal to your brand. As individuals, we have 3 brands that are normally in our repertoire. So
Sure.
going back to finding something, if I don't find Sunlight and I wash my clothes with Sunlight, and literally I stepped out of my house to go buy Sunlight, or Mpumi's Sunlight, basically, or washing powder. If it's not there, I'm gonna take Tabani's washing powder because I'm not now gonna drive 10 Ks to go look and search for this washing powder because I need to do my washing. It's a Saturday. So what we need to understand is generally consumers have 3 brands on average in their repertoire. If I don't find this, I'll take this. Similar with drinks. You go to a spot and you're gonna get a drink. If I don't find this one, I'm gonna drink this one. If there's no Cousin Lights, give me a Amstel or whatever you're drinking. So in essence, just know that your brand, and that's what you then need to fight for. Fight for the fact that your brand has to fall into these 3. And what that means is you have to get your storytelling right. Everything about branding is storytelling. Every single brand that is successful has a story to tell. Now the question is, what story is your brand telling? Because if you don't have a story, then you've got a product that's there. Part of what makes a brand is the story around the brand. So storytelling, you have to know that through and through. What is the story that your brand is actually telling? And once you've honed that and you're very clear on that, then you can start making sure that that story is also continuous. Short bursts don't work. Big corporates will tell you short bursts don't work, and entrepreneurs also need to know, startups also need to know the same thing. If you're going to speak and then disappear on whatever platform you're using in order to drive relevance and talkability and saliency or top of mind of your brand, don't forget, we need you to refresh our memory structures and pop up everywhere where we are looking for you. That's the reason big brands like Coke are still doing it. So what makes you think if a brand that is as big as Coke is still doing it, your small brand doesn't need to do it, and now you must disappear and be MIA? It doesn't work like that. You're gonna, even if it means you're spending your 50 rand on Facebook, it's fine. Continue to spend 50 rand every single month then. That's how you're gonna do it.
I think I'm a culprit because I think I sometimes have sponsors ad there. Then I'm like, no, but you seem to be taking too much of my money now, you know. So that is so important, and I think what you're really getting to is with the little that we have, be consistent.
It's so important. I can't emphasize that point enough. You have to be consistent. The little that you have, be consistent with it. And maybe also what's important is what I think the reason why most startups tend to fall off from communicating consistently is the fact that you start and you put money on Instagram or whatever, and you're not really sure what the objective was. What you're trying to drive awareness, what you're trying to make sure that people know about top 16 youth-owned brands, and I'm gonna pump money, and I'm basically buying for eyeballs. Every single month, I'm buying for eyeballs. That's what I'm doing. And then maybe after 6 months, my strategy then changes, and I say, actually, I want people to click and actually register for top 16. Now that's what I'm measuring.
Engagement now.
Now it's engagement. Now you must click on my link. And these platforms help you to do campaigns in order for people to click on your link. So be clear on what you're actually trying to achieve. And generally through the funnel, people know. So you have to drive awareness first before you try and drive engagement. You can't drive engagement when people don't know about your stuff. So don't chase clicks when people don't know. So make sure people know, and then let people think about it or consider your brand, and then convert them to actually making sales. And that's when you start making money.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I always say it's almost like you have like a microphone, you know, and then somebody comes to you and now they want to have a conversation with you. You then talk to them, and then after that they're like, okay, no, singabangani, you know. So it's almost that continuous. And now, you know, with a friend or any relationship, really, is that there'll be the continuous check-in. Hey, how are you? You know, how you doing? So it's really knowing the customer knowing who you are, you know, and that's why you're saying you'll change whether it is about, you know, what gel product do you use, for example, in my instance, you know, so there's a continuous need to always say, hey, this is who I am. We have a question from we have a question from our viewers, and Dion is saying, how do you know you are telling the right story?
So that's the thing. Stories I get the starting point is you can never fabricate a story. You can't lie a story. You can't lie your way to success. And when your story is not authentic, that's the first thing. I think you said his name is Dion, yeah?
Yeah.
So Dion, when the story is not authentic and you're creating a story, it won't land with consumers. And I think Tumi and Pumi spoke about it earlier on in doing your research and understanding your consumer. The first thing you need to do is understanding your consumer, what is relatable to them and what story can they resonate with your product.
Sure.
Then you have to understand if the product actually fits the story or the customer that you're trying to speak to.
Yeah.
And engage with consumers. Engage with your consumers to get their feedback. You're not gonna sit at home.
Tawan is experiencing a bit of a network again, so if we can give him just a sec for him to come back. But just a reminder, take this time to thank our headline sponsors and our partners, being Standard Bank and Patron Brands, Larato Agency, the Wits Business School, Reveal, and Nalisa Media. You're back, Tawan?
Yes, apologies. So I was saying to Dion, to continuously talk to consumers. You're not going to sit by yourself and, in essence, understand if the story is right or wrong. The only way you're
we're going to give Tamani just this.
And the only way you also open above asking for feedback, another way you're going to see is going to translate into your sales. If you're not
Tamani's network is a bit stable. Let's give him a minute. But I will also take the opportunity to also let everybody know that we have the youth-owned the festival that's coming up on the 15th and 16th. Let's try that again. The 14th and the 15th of June 2023. If you want to exhibit, please make sure to go to www.top16yoba.co.za and you'll be able then to get information about the exhibition, which will be happening on the 14th and the 15th of June, and of course the awards ceremony that will be happening on the 15th of June. We will be announcing our top 16 youth-owned brands that we are so excited to share and talk to you about. Mr. Tawan, are you back?
I'm back. Hopefully, I'm not going to drop off now. I hope and pray.
No worries. We have a bit more time, but we have 2 questions. But let's wrap up the storytelling. That please, can you not tell us me as an individual? Tell us truth stories.
Tell the truth. Don't lie about your story. Make sure your story is authentic, and make sure it's centered around what consumers can resonate with. Is your purpose around your brand relatable to what consumers need and want from you? That's it. And ask for that feedback. Continuously ask for feedback. Don't be scared to ask for feedback. That's how brands grow. They know their consumers through and through.
We have you in the background who's just like, listen here. But it is truth. I think sometimes we do assume that our customers are, I don't know if we assume that they are I don't know what we assume, but I think it is the wrong assumption. And firstly, getting feedback is so important. We usually shy away from it, and that's where I wanted to touch on that. It was customer service and loyalty, because I think customer service comes with that, is that you can only refine your brand with making sure, whether we've broken up, whether it's a partnership or whatever, what is it that didn't work out here? Whether I go back and I review to say I've met that, but I don't know, it's like I've got my personal issues. But be true to self to say, is this brand serving the people as it was meant to or planned to, right? We have Mr. Faku. I think we have one more question, and he says, are there any tried and tested strategies of turning all the brand awarenesses into sales, or does it happen as a side effect? So if I could sound like a salesman, like Jonga, for every one brand that I've put in here, am I going to get it back? Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's why for me, your objective has to be very clear. So you can't drive an awareness drive and say, hey, there's going to be a side effect of sales. No. What you're chasing is awareness. You're chasing people knowing about your brand. You're not chasing to sell at that point, particularly as a
Yeah.
small business. Other businesses might have different strategies, but for you, the first thing is making sure people know about it. And then once people, and it depends, right? So chances are it's a small business operating online and selling their things online. They don't have a brick and mortar store that they physically have or welcoming consumers in.
So the
So
overheads are not that.
yes, your overheads are not, they're not the same, right?
Mm.
So what you need to understand is what you're actually trying to drive at that point. And when you're trying to sell, make sure that you then put money behind making sure that people actually come and click. The same thing we were speaking about earlier on. Make sure people actually come and click. And I guess I'm not out of disrespect, but I'm dumbing it down so we don't talk marketing jargon that sits in another corner and then our brother here is asking, okay, which strategy is this one? Because we can go through strategies. Yeah. So for me, just simplify it. Simplify it. Marketing is not that deep. Simplify it. It's all about consumers. It's all about growing your brand and making sure that you develop it over time. That's it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and I think going back to that, I mean, my ex manager would always say, "For me, simple English. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Simple English. Don't try to be sure. My words are. Don't try. There's no need to try to be clever. It's simple. This thing. This is what we want. We want the person to come by. Are we telling them an emotive story that they're like, sure, to be on, to go on this holiday, and then and Dumi, I mean, she's an agency, so she's selling a story, when you pitch, you're selling a story. As a brand, you're selling a story to people that people are like, I can resonate with, whether it is from Kiwi, when you remember Wuti actually is when I have to polish my shoes, I remember that kid that used to play in the streets, dusty streets. You can resonate.
Dusty, yes.
And I don't know if they really are doing adverts like they used to do them, but we used to really have amazing ones where you're like, I remember this one. But you've covered such amazing parts, and more specifically, I think Dumi has covered branding so well, and you've covered the marketing side, and kind of show that it's quite joined and not necessarily interchangeable, but one works the other. Whilst you are working hard, and it's almost like marketing is, this is who we are, we're showing you who we are, and branding is identifying who we are, but you've really done it well, and thank you to our audience who have been so interactive and really, I mean, others were saying they're running late themselves. We won't tell you that we also had a bit of a technical difficulty of about 5 to 10 minutes, but needless to say, we made it and we were live and we've had a conversation that is wholesome. For those, again, who will see this at a later stage, you will find this, you find this here, but you'll also find this documented, and you can download right at the end of the webinar, where we'll compile a document where it's saying what Taban is talking about. So you'll have an opportunity to click through, go to the Digital Garage by Google. How do I make my life easy? How do I say, okay, I want to start, but where do I go? So the conversations that have been here will be put together in a beautiful document for you to actually reference. I do once again want to thank our guest, Dumelo Hube, and I also want to thank you, Mr. Thabane Khumalo, for making the time to actually have conversations that, get people. I think this is what we want. We want it to be very task-orientated. It's that get out the imposter syndrome, get out your head and say, I can't start, this is not right, this is so forth, but also the truth around making sure that, listen, let's understand your product, you got to boutique, because also, coming with tough cooks, make sure your product is right, fall in love with the numbers of your business, how then am I going to be found, and finally then, how do I say, I'm here and I've arrived. But thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you
so much. To everybody who is listening to us and watching us from wherever you are, thank you once again for joining our first episode of a 6-part series where we are talking about growing your brand. So it's called the Grow Your Brand series. So call a friend, send the link to a friend. Join us on our next episode, which is next week, Wednesday. I am standing in for Pat Mahlangu, the co-founder, or rather the founder of Lerato Agency, the franchises including Pat on Brands, and also the Top 16 Youth Owned Brands Awards. Again, I do want to say that please make sure that you guys are ready and you booked your 15th and your 14th and the 15th of June. I don't know why I keep wanting to say the 16th of June. That is the public holiday. But the 15th and 14th and 15th of June 2023, it will be the Yoba Festival. The festival is the first, it's its annual one. The first inaugural festival, and the awards, it is the second year that the Youth Owned Brands Awards is happening. Nominations closed, and now judges are judging. So if you've been called to say you're nominated, make sure you tag Top 16 Yoba everywhere, and make sure people know that you are part of that prestigious nominee listing. I feel sorry for the judges because they've got amazing brands. It's going to be very hard for them to be like, who's number one? So, but I'm excited for them and excited to see who is going to be our Top 16 Youth Owned Brands Awards nominees for 2023. This again, we'll go to our socials and you'll be able to find who's going to be the ones that are the top 4. For each category. Again, it's 16 categories, but find everything on www.top16yoba.co.za. From me, Unompumelelo Sacha, thank you very much for joining us on episode 1 of Grow Your Brand series. We will see you next week, Wednesday. It won't be the space, but definitely I will be in the background and learning. Next week is about documentation. So if you thought CIPC, who, where, what, if you thought departments, where do I start, if you thought payroll, UIF, SDL, so we have those technical terms broken down and having conversations about what are the top documentation that you need to have, and you tick to say, my checklist, I have this, I have this, I have this. We're building brands that are, we're launching brands rather, that are amazing, that will be sustainable and will be globally recognized. That's what we're all about. From myself, have a beautiful evening. Goodbye.